You are listening to the In the Travel Know podcast, where we talk to game-changing leaders in the industry on how they got to where they are, trends they think will transform the industry, what they believe is the future of travel, and how they support sustainability, diversity, and young people in travel. Are you ready to get in the travel know? Hello, and thank you for tuning into the In the Travel Know podcast, powered by Avis Budget Group and supported by the ITT Future You and Waterfront, the creative agency for ambitious travel brands. My name is Jamie Lee Abtar, your host, and today I am joined by Cressida Sargeant, who is the Chief Commercial Officer at Traveltek. Cressida, thank you so much for joining us on the show, and congratulations on last night's amazing award, Best Tech Provider of the Year.
Oh yeah, that's right. Thanks, Jamie.
Did you have a good night last night at the Globes?
It was absolutely amazing. So definitely a few sore heads at Traveltek today.
I know. We've got so many people coming through today that have been at the Globe. So we're like really thankful that you guys took the time out and are here to chat with us today. And Cress, before I get into our conversation, I just wanted to start talking a little bit about your background. You know, was it travel? Was it technology? How did you get to where you are today?
So I started my travel career with lastminute.com. Okay. So always on the e-commerce side, but very much in the travel world. And the opportunity came up to work at Traveltek a number of years ago. So it's a part of the business that I didn't know too much about at the time. And I've really enjoyed kind of working in what I think is the engine room really of the travel industry for the last nearly 4 years now.
Oh, fantastic. And tell us a little bit about your current job role, Chief Commercial Officer. What does a day in the life of Cressida look like? What's that like?
No one day is ever the same. So there are there's certain tasks that happen on a weekly basis in my role. So operationally, we always make sure that the clients have the service levels that they require. So we work really closely with the operational team. The account management side of my role is very closely working with that. I also run our global new business. So my days tend to be long because some days I've got a team based in Brisbane, so I can have early morning starts with them. And then we also have a team based in Miami and Dallas as well. So sometimes the days can be long. Early morning starts with APAC, then the UK, and then we obviously close out with America at the end of the day. So it can be bizarre speaking to people in the morning and then you speak to them again at the end of your day with how the time zones work. But yeah, looking after marketing as well. So always coming up with the content ideas as to how we're going to promote what we do. Always, again, working with partners. So it was great to see so many of our customers win awards last night and the plans that they have. And really tech, drives a lot of those changes that we see for our partners. Yeah.
For those that might be listening and not like totally familiar with Traveltek, can you give us a kind of brief background on what is Traveltek and what do you guys do and kind of the partners that you support in the industry as well?
Yeah, so we were a 20-year-old business based in Glasgow, but again, we're now remote first. So whilst a lot of our engineers are based there, we also have a team in India and then teams based over the UK, a couple of people that work remotely in Europe, and then as I just said, America and Australia there. So we're a software business. We provide technology tools for customers who can dynamically package and put the travel components together. And that's the agent desktop solutions, also through to the mid-office, the finance part. So effectively, we help people to run their travel businesses from a technology perspective. And we work with a lot of customers across the UK.
Fantastic. And I'm going to get a bit personal now. What do you think was your kind of career highlight? Because you've obviously had an amazing career, the Chief Commercial Officer. What was that career highlight and why?
I actually think last night was a huge career highlight for me.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I really do. I so didn't expect us to win last night. But if I'm honest, I think Traveltek has been on a real journey the last couple of years. We were a business that didn't have great customer service scores. And actually, from a customer service perspective, from a team morale perspective, we've had to work really hard in the last few years to turn that business around. So for me to get an award that was voted for by our customers last night, meant a real huge amount to me. But I think the career, when I think about the moment actually I'm proudest of in my career, I used to work for a health club chain. And when I studied at university, I was very sporty, and that was the world that I wanted to go into before travel. And sadly, there was a terrible accident that I was involved in at the health club, and a lady got killed. I was very young at the time. And I had, at the time, an awful manager who bullied me, told me that I would never make it. And I think actually there's been something inside of me that has really wanted to prove that person wrong. And last year I wrote an article about mental health and the impacts that this accident had on me. And what was actually truly lovely was how many people had come out of the woodwork to actually say that this same person had an impact on their careers in a negative way as well, and what had actually happened to this person. So that was a bit of a moment of karma for me, really. But I think it's also driven me to think, actually, the culture in businesses and how you treat people has a huge impact on them. And whilst at the time I probably didn't realise how this would drive me on, there was something about that moment that definitely ignited something in me.
The flame within you, and you were, and I think it's fantastic that you were able to speak up about it, and then, like, you know, get other people were able to see, like, it's not just me, because sometimes I feel like when you're in those situations that you might feel like it's just you, and it's good to hear that there's other people out there that might be experiencing like a similar thing. So well done for you for like speaking out on that, definitely. And in terms of what would you kind of consider like your biggest kind of or the biggest factors you consider that make you successful, or those things that you think that help to drive your success, really?
I think I guess if I could give myself advice, you know, going back 25 years ago when I first started out, I think you have to really understand what your own personal values are. And I think that helps you as you go through your career ladder, because you are going to be faced with difficult decisions. You know, when you manage people, which comes from obviously growing through your career, it is a big challenge. And I think providing you understand your own personal values and ethics, you can always then, when you have to make those tough decisions, be that from a business or from a people perspective, you always have to make sure that you're true to your own core values. And I think that's the big piece of advice that I would give to people.
That you would pass on. Be true to your own core values.
Yeah, and I think you have to know what those are.
That was my next question. Like, how do you even like identify those and finding out what those are? Any kind of tips that you can offer in terms of like helping to identify your core values, or, you know?
Well, I think some of that is also, I think you're, like, I'm a mum to 2 kids, and I've always worked full time. I've never shied away from the fact that I'm going on a school run or I'm going on to sports day. And I also encourage other women to be more open about saying, no, this is important to me, and I'm going to go to sports day this afternoon, or I'm going to go to the art exhibition, or I'm going to do school runs. And I think one of the really positive things about COVID has been that actually a lot more people have embraced this flexible working now and have seen it. And you know, whilst this is a bit of a sweeping statement, some of the working mums that have worked for me over the years are honestly the most organised.
We are.
And really capable of juggling to a whole new level. So to me, I think, again, your core values are that you shouldn't shy away from the fact that you've got children and you've got something else that's important in your life, because to me, it shouldn't just be about women having it. It's parents that have this responsibility.
I think it's something I struggled with as a mum of 2 as well, like coming into the industry and like, you know, do I say that like I have to go pick up my kids, or do I say so? You trying to struggle. So it's really good to hear that, you know, be open about it. Share these things. Like this week, I remember I was on a call and a person was like calling me, and I was like, oh my God, guys, I am on a school trip with my son. Give me 1 hour. So I really get to make sure that you ensure that you share that information. What would you, or how would you really define success, or what's your kind of definition for success?
Yeah, I think, I mean, again, I think personal achievements are great. I think success for me is about seeing actually other people do well. So a big thing for me last night was that was voted for by our customers. So, and I think for me also seeing my team's faces last night and the elation on, you know, on their expressions and how much it meant to them last night. And I think one of the things that I guess I enjoy about my role now is actually being able to pass on some of those mentoring and coaching tips. I volunteer my time to the mentoring club as well. And actually I get a lot out of some of those sessions that I do with, and it tends to be girls that come forward. So it's younger girls starting out in their careers. And there's, and I think success for me is also about giving back as well. And I think I was lucky enough to have, you know, female and male role models when I was younger, and you get a lot out of that. And I also think, whilst I'm a big fan of Remote First, I do think that collaboration and that bit of time in the office to spend with people who are more experienced is something that I really hope that we don't miss as a culture going forward.
Yeah, going forward, I definitely agree with that. You mentioned, mentoring and young girls. You are a female in business and as a chief commercial officer. Tell us a little bit of what advice you would probably offer to other women, coming into the industry and looking up to you and thinking that one day I'd like to be Cressida. What kind of advice would you kind of offer to a female like in the industry really?
I think being true to yourself is a key thing. So I think you have to. I think we have feminine traits that are brilliant and we shouldn't shy away from those. I think, again, confidence is a big thing, and I see this. I did a post on LinkedIn last week when it was International Women's Day around this. And I do see a real trend across a lot of women doubting themselves in terms of, can I put myself forwards and do this? People talk a lot about imposter syndrome. And I think sometimes you have to just put yourself out there and think, what's the worst that can happen? And I think for me, it's about giving people that little bit of a push and confidence. And my daughter a few months ago wanted to put herself forward for the school council. She's 9 and she had to do a speech and she said, the boys will laugh at me. And I said to her, listen, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that happens is you do the speech and for whatever reason, you don't get the role, you don't move forwards, but at least you've given it your best shot. And so I helped her with the speech. She went forwards and she got the role for Sports Council. So I was really delighted for her. But I think it's a big learning to encourage people to push them out of their comfort zones. And I actually think if we can do that, I think with girls a little bit earlier, I think we would see that encouragement come through. And for me, just giving people that confidence, because when you do give confidence to people, and I've seen this in the women that I work around now, they achieve fantastic things, but you just need to encourage that a little bit more. And whilst that's a real genuine, a generalist statement, it's definitely been true for what I've experienced during my career.
We're going to go touch a little bit on insights and like the travel industry, and I want to hear your perspectives on the last 2 years in travel. We're not going to say the word, we're not going to talk the word, we're not going to talk about it, but I want to hear like how have you seen like the last 2 years help to transform the travel industry, and any new trends that you see that might be popping up around as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's been an incredibly tough 2 years, and sadly, looking around the room last night, there's a number of people that aren't in the industry anymore, and I think that I actually genuinely think we will have a challenge with recruiting talent back in the next couple of years. So I think that's something that we definitely need to be aware of. I think in terms of the trends, sustainability without a doubt will be a trend that will come through. So I think you're seeing people become a lot more conscious of the environment, and I think people will want to make greener choices going forwards. And again, it's going to be interesting with some of the politics that we're seeing at the moment in terms of whether that will affect the destinations. In the data at Traveltek, we're definitely seeing a lot more of the long haul destinations coming through. So people looking to do those, bucket list trips. We see that in the data in terms of the average spends and the time out that people are booking. So I think there will be people wanting to do those lifetime trips that they may have put off over the last couple of years. And I think another big challenge that we will have as an industry from a technology perspective is also keeping talent in, because we're not just competing with other travel technology companies, we're competing with fintech companies who have much deeper pockets than we do as an industry. And I think that you've got the tech giants like the Expedias and the Booking.coms of this world, but actually I think that the high street really has to look at how they invest in tech going forwards.
Hi there, this is Sam Ballard, the Managing Director of Waterfront, the ambitious creative company for ambitious travel companies. This episode's Waterfront Moment is all about making something sticky. Now, that might sound quite strange, but bear with me. If your product is something that isn't necessarily memorable or exciting, one thing you can do is try and make it sticky. Now, this is by no means easy, but if you're saying something like insurance or computer systems, financial products, you're going to struggle to cut through. One thing that other companies have done, and some to really, really great success, is to introduce a mascot. Think of Churchill's Nodding Dog, the Admiral's Admiral, the Go Compare opera singer. All of them have been around for years and years and years and have had really, really sustained success. I mean, some of them you can even buy soft toys of the actual mascot. Of course, you have to be aware of the potential dangers here. Compare the Market or Compare the Meerkat had years of success with its Russian meerkat. However, Alexander Orlov has now been pulled from appearing alongside news programs over sensitivities with the Russian invasion. So you have to be careful. This is your Waterfront Moment, brought to you by Waterfront, the creative agency for the travel industry.
You mentioned young people coming into the industry. What skills do you think, or what skills should a young person who wants to kind of get into, maybe work for a company like Traveltek, what kind of skills should they look at acquiring right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends what you want to come in and do. I mean, I think that going to learn to code is never going to be, a skill that's going to be, not utilised. I think you have to have a passion to work in travel. I think a lot of people that I see, it's an interest that they have. It is a really fun place to work. I think a lot of the people in travel tend to be very passionate and creative around what they do. But I also think we're a real force for good, because if you think about it, it isn't just the trips that we do for that annual holiday. A lot of people rely on tourism for a living globally. And I think that, again, it working as part of an industry that I think is so important to the global economy, but then also people's livelihoods, I think is, and for me, people embracing cultures and going to different parts of the world, it breaks down a lot of barriers from a cultural perspective. And I think that's a really important part. I think for me, people coming into the industry, there's so many different areas that you can go in and work. It's a really widespread. If I think about what I've done during my career, I've had lots of different roles where I've experienced loads of different parts of the travel industry. So I do think that, again, it's an interesting place to be.
Yeah, interesting place. I definitely agree with that. And in terms, we mentioned sustainability as one of the trends that you see happening and changing. What is Traveltek doing as it relates to, maybe if we start first with sustainability, then we could go into things like diversity and inclusivity, because I know you're doing a lot of work around like bringing women into that travel technology space. So let's start with sustainability and then move to
Yeah, so I have to say sustainability is something that hasn't had a huge amount of focus from us, simply from a bandwidth and, I guess, capability. To be honest, we've been in survival mode, as a lot of businesses have for the last couple of years. But that said, again, like a lot of companies, we have an ESG plan. So we are looking around sustainability, and the first few initiatives that we're looking to kick off, one is around helping our staff in terms of a sustainability pledge. So we've had a sustainability champion that we've taken on board as part of the culture squad that we have at Traveltek. And again, as we're building out our new technology, we are looking at actually how we allow people to filter on more sustainable options. So we don't have that in the existing platform at the moment, but in the new APIs that we'll be releasing at the end of this year, we've built that sustainability focus in. So very early days for us in terms of having sustainability as a focus, but absolutely on our agenda for this year.
And there's a plan there for that. And in diversity and inclusivity, I know, especially around like women in the travel tech space, tell us a little bit more about some of the things you're doing and some of the changes that you've seen happen since you've joined Traveltek as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look around the technology space within travel, it's not very diverse at the moment. So, and often, I can sit on panels and I'll be the only female there. So at Traveltek, we went on a real drive to bring more females into the business. Delighted to say now that we're at 35% females across the board. So that's been brilliant for us. It's been hard recruiting female developers because there aren't that many people out there. So we've tended to take people from more junior levels and bring them through. And again, I think that's something that we're going to have to do. We're going to have to go out and encourage more women to come in and obviously bring them through the ranks. So, but yeah, 35% now at Traveltek. And we've worked really hard to, again, make sure that we always have a female on the recruiting panel when we come through, so that, again, they see male and female during that. And again, we've worked hard at bringing external speakers in to educate people internally. And again, we've asked the women what kind of skill sets that they would be interested in and who they would want to come in. So we've had some fabulous speakers come in and talk not only to the females at Traveltek, but also the males as well. Because
super important. We need our male allies in order to move the dial forward, because we already know they're in the majority at the moment. So we do need those male allies to kind of help us to push the agenda forward.
Yeah,
for sure.
And even, I mean, last week being International Women's Day, we supported it. And then we have a cultural squad that does fortnightly updates, just a half an hour with the business every other Friday. And we did a bit of history last week on International Women's Day. And then I shared a few anecdotes with people about my career, because I think a lot of people think that it isn't still an issue. And actually, when you live and breathe and you still hear some of the comments that people still, experience, it tells me that, again, it's an educational piece here, that it's not just for women to sit in a room talking about it. We've got to educate everyone on this topic.
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that, because like a lot of these times I think I get slightly frustrated with the fact that we're still in this phase where we are still like talking about it, right? And I get really frustrated about it. But then there's so many people that we still need to educate and still need to keep putting that message out there about diversity and inclusion, why it's important, showing the statistics. So I'm really glad to see the work that you guys are doing at Traveltek, and keep up the great work. But as we get ready to kind of wrap up and wind down, I got 2 questions which I like to ask people when I meet you. And the first one is, if you weren't the Chief Commercial Officer, what career would you like to explore, or would you be in, you think?
I'd actually like to work for a charity. If I didn't have to work, if I didn't have to earn money, I'd love to. I used to coach kids sport. That was what I used to do when I was at university for my summer job, and I actually really enjoyed that. You have no, you don't have to worry about numbers, budgets. You don't have to worry about customers, and there's an innocence around children, but also, ultimately when you're teaching them sports activities, they're there because they like doing it. I used to love that job. So if I could do something like that around working with young kids in a sporting environment for charities, that's what I'd do.
I didn't see that one.
If I win the lottery.
If you win the lottery, you know what Cressida is going to do. And is there any person whose career really inspires you, or that you look to in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was lucky enough during my time at Expedia to be mentored by Ariane. She has gone on to do wonderful things at Expedia now. And so I look up to female leaders like that, I think, within the travel industry. And I'm sure there are many more that now my mind's gone slightly blank. But I think, again, we work in such a fantastic industry with lots of female leaders. And I think it's been good that we've had lots of companies that have come through and they've put that on the agenda over the last couple of years. So it's been good to see that coming through.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Cressida, for coming through and talking to us here on Indie Travel Know. And wishing you all the best and much success in everything that you do. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jamie Lee. My pleasure.
Thanks. The In the Travel Know podcast is powered by Avis Budget Group, a global mobility provider operating in over 160 countries, creating a diverse and inclusive culture. Their brands include Avis, Budget, and Zipcar. They work to connect you to more. They are a team of visionaries, inventors, and achievers, driving technology that will revolutionize the world. They have roles in airports, operations, corporate, and support teams. To find out more, visit avisbudgetgroup.jobs to browse their latest global vacancies.